When the world gets weird and the bills get thick, you call on Clint and you feature Dick. One talks numbers, the other talks slick. Two dads, one mic, yeah, this could stick. Clint's crunching figures straight to the point. Dick's just here to laugh in the joint. It's the Clinterific Show, featuring Dick. Dick's quick with a joke, Clint's got the math. Together they'll balance your checkbook and your laugh. They'll talk finance, fun, and fatherly fails, with liquidity dreams and 401k tales. So grab your coffee, join us a ticket, the Clinterific Show, featuring Dick.
Welcome back to the Clinterific Show, featuring
Dick. That's me, by the way. I am the featured Dick.
He is the featured Dick.
Yes.
We are back for
better than the pictured Dick.
And how? I would like to point out to everybody that Mr. Dick has 3D printed himself a fancy little can koozie for his healthy habit of consuming large quantities of Pepsi.
Yay.
And if you would like to sponsor us, Pepsi, we are accepting applications for sponsors.
I don't actually drink a large amount of Pepsi. I drink a large amount of White Monster, which I have printed another can cozy for.
Well, I would rather you drank Pepsi, Ricky, because White Monster is a monster on your heart.
I'm a monster.
Well, I mean, you know.
I printed this. Look at this.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's pretty good, actually.
Really, yeah. My daughter loves Hello Kitty, so I thought I'd print her a comb because she can never find her frickin' combs.
I'm probably going to regret it, but I just downloaded this Hello Kitty Island Adventure game on Evelyn's iPad, so
oh gosh,
she may be
gonna regret that.
Yeah, she may be diving into the abyss that is Hello Kitty.
You did make sure that was like official Hello Kitty and not like
yes, no, it's done through the Apple Arcade, so it's official.
Well, I mean, okay,
it's officially official.
This actually turned out really well. I'm impressed.
Yeah, I was actually looking at those things, and that's actually a really good job for a 3D print.
Well, and it printed all, because there's 4 colors here. There's pink, white, red, and black.
Yeah.
And so the one that I have.
The level of detail is actually pretty incredible.
Well, and it's really clean, too.
Yeah.
That's the thing that really impresses me. Like, it's not like super artifact.
I
can still see some of the lines and stuff, but like, it's a clean looking.
I would have thought that you bought that at one of those lunchbox shops in the mall or something like that.
The gotcha game things?
No. They're like the anime stores. Aren't they called like Lunchbox or something like that?
I do. That's not in a store we have up here. I want to say you can get stuff like that.
Box Lunch. But yeah, no, it's like an anime themed store, so gotcha. It's got all different kinds of anime and stuff like that.
Yeah, I want to say stores like Spencer's and Hot Topic, which used to have cool shit, now sell like anime stuff.
Yeah,
like it's kind of weird.
Yeah,
not that I hate anime. It's just like
right.
It's weird because like Hot Topic in particular used to be very much like counterculture.
Yeah. And now it's mainstream culture, which is what's weird about it. It's like their whole brand literally took a 180.
Like before, like things like goth and emo were cool. They were doing goth and emo, and then that kind of became more mainstream. And yeah, I don't know. Then I became an adult and I stopped going to malls because
they're horrible nightmare fuel.
Would I?
But I mean, just wait until you get like 70. And then the mall is the cool place to go again because you can walk there and it's not freezing outside. You don't have to worry about falling and breaking a hip or anything like that.
Yeah, when I lived further north, the mall in the town I lived in actually had a plaque inside the entrance doors that said how many laps equaled a mile.
Wow, nice. Listen, I think somebody should just buy should do this as part of the mall, is have like a competition going with these elderly walking people.
How many laps can they do in a year?
Yeah, like this is your fastest time to walk a mile or a marathon or whatever.
Okay.
Because they go in there and they get after it. I've seen some 80-year-old people that are just moving.
But my father-in-law is like that. He's 79 now, I think, or something like that.
Oh yeah,
old AF. Anyway, dude, he used to just like when I first met him. Like, okay, so the first time I went to go visit my wife's family down in Southern California, which is where they live, I went on a hike with him and my brother-in-law, and holy crap, that guy, like, he was in his like early 70s at that point, and he just is just like dude could just take off.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He got longer legs too, and we're hiking up through the mountains in Southern California, and he's just like, just go. He's just all go. And I'm like,
yeah. Oh man.
But I'm short, fat. I got short legs, and I'm a little chubby. I'm like Gimli,
Yeah.
You've seen Lord of the Rings.
You're very dwarfish.
I'm wasted on long distance. I'm very dangerous.
Very dangerous at short distance. Yeah. We're natural sprinters.
We're natural sprinters.
Oh man. Oh, that's such a great movie franchise. I wish they made movies of that caliber still.
Don't we all?
And that's one of those ones that's interesting to me, because it's like it is a quintessential apex of 90s film. Because they were all filmed at like the exact they were all filmed at the exact same time.
That is true. They did film them all as one. Like they were like, we're doing this trilogy.
Yeah.
So we're gonna frickin' do it right, and so they filmed all three. Which I did a little bit of I'll say research, aka I watched a YouTube video about that whole like production of it, and it was unheard of.
Yeah.
It's unheard of, and they don't do it because like doing a film trilogy like that is so incredibly risky.
Oh man.
For the production studios.
Yes. Yeah.
So risky for the production studios that that's why you see a lot of these movies that they get greenlit for a sequel, right? After the first one. Well, because like they don't want to lose out all this money. So it's amazing that those movies got made the way they did.
Oh yeah, yeah. So this says that the filming was all done. They started principal photography and did filming from October 11 of 99 through December 22 of 2000. Then they did additional pickup shoots between 2001 and 2004. So, it was kind of like, okay, we've got last minute adjustments that we make before we put this in the theaters and stuff like that. But yeah, so like I said, I think that was, arguably like the apex of what had been developed from a filmmaking perspective at the end of the 90s. And incredible spectacle. I mean, even watching it now, it has aged spectacularly because of all the practical stage effects that they used. It's not all CGI.
Right, and that's the thing, like, because of when it was done, like, the whole CGI craze had not completely, it had not kicked off like it has now. Not everything was done on a green screen and all that.
Yeah.
So we got a rare, it seems now, a rare like taste of like traditional movie magic. Like using practical effects and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yep.
I don't, everyone's probably, well, maybe not everyone's aware of it, but like if you ever see the actors all together, like Gimli, sorry, um, John Rhys Davies is one of the
taller.
He's one of the tallest ones.
Yeah.
But he plays Gimli.
Yep.
And so it's like, well, how the heck did they do that without CGI?
Yeah. Especially when you have his height, because he's the dwarf, compared to the elves and the men who are the tallest.
Right.
And then you've also got the hobbits who are another scale smaller.
Yeah, smaller.
Yeah.
And like in real life, like the actors that played the hobbits weren't necessarily that much shorter than like Vigo and Ian and Orlando, etc., and even John Rhys Davies. But using things like forced perspective, where they film it in such a way, and this is really cool to see, because I bought the original trilogy as a 3-part, I got that big extended edition box set when it came out.
Oh yeah.
I waited to buy the movies until then, and it had all the behind the scenes stuff on it, right? And so the way that they did it, like they'd have one person would be closer.
Oh
right?
yes.
So this hand looks bigger than this hand,
right?
Because this one's closer. So if you wanted, Gandalf to be bigger in the scene where him and like Frodo are sitting in
his house,
his kitchen or whatever,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. And they looks like, or Bilbo, whichever it was.
Yeah.
They look like they're sitting across from each other. They're not.
Yeah. It's like a forced perspective, but it looks like they're sitting across from each other. Yeah.
Right. And so they're having to not look at each other, but look where the other person should
be. Yes. Yeah. Which is spectacular that they were able to do it as well as they did. And you can watch that movie still to this day and see.
That's why it stands the test of time, because like if you watch any movies from that era that used a lot, like that were a lot more CGI heavy, like it looks so dated. I mean, go back to like, well, okay, let's go back to the original Star Wars movies, and with the modern eye, the CGI looks very antiquated. I'm not saying it's bad, but you can tell. But if you watch the Lord of the Rings movies, like the practical effects stand the test. You doing okay there, bud?
Yeah, so I was looking up the height of these different actors. So I had Google pull the heights for all of the people who were in the main cast. Elijah Wood is 5'5".
Oh yeah, he's not very tall.
I had no idea he was that short. Sean Astin is 5'6", and then Billy Boyd was Pippin. He was 5'6", and then Dominique Monaghan is 5'7". He was the tallest.
Right. So they're all shorter than me.
Yes.
So I'm 5'8".
And then Viggo Mortensen was 5'11", Orlando Bloom 5'11", Sean Bean 5'10", Ian McKellen 5'10", Liv Tyler 5'10". So like they were very intentional about the heights as well, which is actually pretty impressive. But yeah, Gimli is 6'1". Yeah.
He's the tallest one.
Yeah.
He's the tallest one. And yet
actually the tallest was Christopher Lee. He's actually almost 6'5". Amazingly enough, yeah.
Dude, that guy is nuts.
Yeah. Incredible actor.
I won't even get started with that.
But yeah, so this is actually a really good segue, because it was such an enormous gamble by the was it New Line Cinema is the production company that made these films.
Yeah, New Line.
putting all of this in making all 3 films in one, segment, having them ready to launch one after the other is such a gamble from a profit and loss perspective, which is, it's the reality of the world we live in from a business perspective. So much of this stuff is you've got to make money off of it, or they're not going to continue making these movies. And fortunately enough, they made an incredible amount of money on this. But that segues us into our main topic of today, which is how a company can look like it's making money but be broke.
Oh man, I can't wait for you to explain this because this bugs me.
Yeah. So do you know the difference between profit and cash flow?
Is profit what you make minus what's extra from what you make minus your expenditures, and cash flow is like how much you actually it's like net versus gross, right? When I look at my paycheck and I see I gross $20 but I net only $5, I curse the government.
Yes.
And taxes.
I should rephrase the question because I technically should have said revenue versus cash flow, but profit is similar. So the real question is the difference between revenue and cash flow.
Revenue and I'm confused. You're gonna have to just explain it to me.
So when I sell a service to a company, I invoice them through an accounting software and say, okay, I did $1,000 worth of work for you. Here's an invoice that is going into my accounting system as revenue that I have earned, because from an accounting perspective, I've earned the revenue. I've done the work for it. I send you the invoice. Okay, so it's August 6th today. So if I send you an invoice and you don't pay me until September 6th, then that income is on my books as $1,000. But I have not gotten a dime for it.
Right.
And so some companies have 30, 60, even 90-day lead time on invoices. So you have to figure out how to stack your bills in a way that you can cover what you have to pay in the meantime while you're waiting for these large influxes of cash to come in.
Oh, excuse me. Well, that sounds awful.
Yeah. So if you're doing a service-based business or any kind of business that is not direct pay when you're done with the service, then you're going to have to deal with the implications of having to wait for the cash to actually come in. And then there's even more delays, because what happens if they pay with a credit card? What happens if they pay with a big check? If I do a huge consulting job for a big firm and they write me a check for $50,000, it could be between 3 and 7 business days before my bank clears the check, depending on who wrote it and what bank it's coming from.
Right. Okay.
Obviously I would hope that, I've got things in place to float me until that check clears, because the money's coming. But still, it's one of those things where you have to deal with cash coming in at different windows compared to revenue that you have earned and is showing up on your income statement. So, for example, that's why some people will do their businesses as cash basis instead of what's called accrual basis. So accrual basis means that I can recognize income when I invoice and expenses when I incur the invoice, not necessarily when I pay or receive the money. Clear as mud?
Yes. I was just, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah. So, So essentially what you have to keep in mind is like, this is a perfect example when you're making film, because you have an enormous amount of upfront expense that is being incurred and paid prior to the movie even getting to theaters or streaming services or whatever it is.
Right, so it's already in debt.
Exactly. You're going into an enormous amount of debt to even produce the film. And the gamble is that if you go into that debt, that you will get a hopefully 2 to 3 times return on investment, and say, okay, I spent $100,000 or $100 million on this film, and we made $300 million on this film.
Right.
But that's the gamble. And you have to be able to bankroll the enormous front-loaded cash expense to even get to the point, because some of these movies, like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, arguably, if you broke up the expense of the filming and everything like that into 3 equal parts, they got a return on investment for 1/3 of it by the first film. And then the second and third films were, like if you were applying those costs to those projects, then they're going to have, delayed return on investment. So there's 4 or 5 years between the expense being incurred and the revenue being generated to come into these, these longer waiting project films and stuff like that. So that's kind of the general concept. And so there's a lot of things that can cause that gap to be different between revenue that's being accrued for and cash that's actually being received. But if you put the right pieces in place, then you should be typically okay. Typically in industries like this, you're going to have to do something where you're going to create larger profit margins so that when you do get paid, it allows you to have more money left over after all the bills have been paid, so things can keep being carried forward to when the next paycheck comes in. So you typically have something like that going on where you've set up a system in your pricing structure that, a lot of businesses, depending on the type, have between, let's say, 5 and 10, maybe on the higher end, 15% profit margin for most product-based services. Whereas if you're in service-based industries, you can have, significantly higher profit margins. So if it's something where you've got to create a better profit margin in a certain product so you can keep things afloat while you wait for the bigger things to come in, then that's something that you have to create as part of your business strategy. The other problem is that if you have a business that has a lot of upfront costs for jobs and you grow too quickly, that can actually be a death spiral for your business, because you spend a lot of money up front and have to wait for the money to come in.
Right.
So
you end up going into debt really
exactly
quickly, and okay.
Yep. You go into, like, for example, construction there's a lot of people that have this issue within a construction company. You've got labor, you've got materials, you've got marketing, you've got inventory that you have to carry. All this stuff rolls into one big problem, which is you have to pay a lot of it up front, which is why most of the time what people in construction do is they take a 40 to 50% down payment up front, which is essentially, I'm taking the payment up front for you covering labor and materials and whatever other X factor variables. And then the second payment is to cover the rest of the job to get done with labor and materials. And then typically the last payment, which is usually, most of the time it's like a 40-40-20 or a 45-10 breakdown. And the final payment is typically going to be your profit margin that you get to keep. Which is why, unfortunately, a lot of construction companies don't even mess with that last payment, and they also don't mess with finishing a lot of jobs. Now, I mean, I'm not trying to say that every construction company on the planet is garbage, but it happens way more often than it should, where they don't finish what they should have done. So yeah, growing too quickly is a problem. Loan payments are higher than the expense shown on the profit and loss statement. So, from a loan perspective, when you take out a loan, there's two aspects of loans. You know, you're anybody that's taken out a loan knows that there's two parts of it. You're paying back principal and you're paying back interest. Well, from a profit and loss perspective, the expense is only the interest, whereas the principal is still cash flow that's going out of your pocket. But that's what's called a balance sheet item. And so the unfortunate part there is you have money going out of your business because you bought a truck or you took out a loan for a certain amount of money, or you borrowed for a piece of equipment or whatever. And so you have cash going out of your business, but you don't get to count that as an expense, even though your money is going down. Now, you do have it saved in some form or fashion because you have a depreciation expense, which is where you take the value of the asset, truck, equipment, things like that, and reduce that value over time. But that's very rarely ever directly connected to the loan payments that you're paying. So yeah, that's one of the other things that people get hung up on. The other one is the owner has to pay himself, so the owner is taking out more money than he should from the business, or taking out money because he has to. And that creates cash flow problems for the business because they don't have money to pay the bills, even though he's, as an owner, has to pay his own bills, So it's kind of a catch-22. It's like you got to decide which bills you're going to pay, So yeah, just from that perspective, you just got to be careful as an owner from taking out too much money yourself. And kind of going back to the loan payments, buying very expensive vehicles. I know quite a few people have mentioned this to me in my experience as a tax preparer, that they get to, December and they're like, oh, I'm going to go buy a brand new truck, or a really expensive piece of equipment, or a new car, or whatever, and I'm going to write off this whole thing.
It's a write-off.
Yeah, exactly. So what a lot of people don't understand, and that's something that I want to make sure that I address here, is that while you are getting a tax advantage for the year that you're buying that asset, and when you file your taxes, it's going to help out. That being said, you are still going to have to pay for that asset. Mm-hmm. So if you go buy a $100,000 truck, yes, you have a $100,000 truck, and that's all fancy, and it makes you feel good about yourself, and you love driving around the fancy vehicle and blah, blah, blah. But you get a $100,000 write-off on your taxes, which is probably going to save you anywhere from, let's say $15,000 to $30,000 in best case scenario in taxes. Okay, well that's great, but you're going to pay more than that in the first year of payments.
Yeah.
So you still got to make the payments for that vehicle, and you used up the entire expense of that truck in the first year that you bought it. So the expense is not tied to your profit and loss statement anymore. It's tied to a loan that's cash flow negative out of your business. So just keep that in mind. Just because you can go buy a new truck. Now, if you've got $500 million in the bank, and like, oh yeah, by all means, you're not worried about the the tax implications or the being able to make the payments, go for it. But just keep in mind that
you're not worried about if you've got $500 million.
Exactly. Like, yeah, people are like, oh, well, this tax advice is never one size fits all. And that's the unfortunate part is so many people are like, oh, yeah, I heard this from my buddy, or I heard this from my bartender, or I heard this from my dad. He did this on his taxes and he saved himself a ton of money. Well, that may very well be for that specific situation, which there's so many different variables that go into that decision. There are going to be tax advantages that tend to benefit more people than not. But that doesn't mean that every time you hear some piece of tax advice or some legal tax loophole or whatever, that it's going to apply universally, perfectly for everybody that's filing their tax return. So just keep that in mind. The other thing that a lot of people don't take into consideration, especially when they're in an inventory-heavy industry, when you're selling a lot of products, you have an enormous amount of money caught up in inventory. That's why inventory is called a balance sheet item. So when you buy buy inventory, so let's, I'm going to use your 3D printing. Let's say you started a business where you started selling items that are 3D printed. Okay.
That'd be cool.
Okay. Well, you've got, you take $500 to start this business. So you've got your bank account, you start up the bank account, you have $500 cash in the business, and that's what you're going to use as your funding for the entire business. Okay. Well, you've also got your 3D printer. So that's going to go on your balance sheet as a listed asset. Okay, so you're going to get depreciation there. That's going to help you out a little bit on the expense side. But eventually that's going to net out to zero because the depreciation is going to net against the value of the 3D printer. So if you paid $500 over the next 5 years, that's going to have accumulated depreciation of $500. So the net value of that asset is going to go to zero. Okay, well, what is your product? It's, you're making koozies for different things, and you're making, Hello Kitty brushes and stuff like that. And then you've got the supplies that you're saving. What's the filament? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. It's called filament.
Okay. So you've got a stockpile of filament. Okay. Well, you take that $500 in cash that you've got and you go buy 10 different colors of filament, 5 spools of each of it. And now you have $25 left in your bank account. And you have $475 of supplies and inventory. Mm-hmm. So it's basically unfinished goods for sale. Because once somebody sends you an order, you turn on your machine, you put the filament in, it makes the product, and then you have a finished good. So that moves from your unfinished goods to finished goods. Okay, so you make one. Mm-hmm. There's still a significant time lapse between taking that inventory and converting it back into cash because that's your goal. Yes, you put $475 into inventory and it's sitting there and it's valued at $475, but when you turn it into a product and sell it, it could be worth $2,500. But there's still the process of converting it and selling it. There's advertising, there's, credit card fees and bank fees and all of this other stuff that you have to take into consideration when you're selling a product. And so you may have a very successful business that's got all of your cash tied up in inventory. So that's one of the things that people need to keep track of is making sure that inventory does not get too fat and eat up all your cash, because you still got to have cash to pay your employees and to pay the taxes and pay your electricity and your phone bill and all that stuff.
I hate it when my inventory gets fat.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the thing, because ultimately inventory is not a bad thing, but it is a necessary evil because you have to tie up money in order to have inventory.
It's like potential energy versus kinetic energy.
Exactly. Yep. The next big shortfall that a lot of people run into is they didn't have enough cash set aside for taxes. So like, oh, I made $100,000 in profit this year, and I took every bit of it out of my business. Okay, that's great. You have a very successful business. You're doing a wonderful job. You made $100,000 that you pulled into your own pocket, but you didn't pay the taxes on it. So now you have $100,000 of income, and you have to pay taxes on that, which you've got self-employment taxes, you've got state income taxes, you've got federal income taxes, you've got unemployment taxes, all this stuff. And so when
taxes.
Exactly, everybody hates taxes, unless you're not paying them.
I mean, unless you're the one that's receiving the tax.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. If you like taxes, it's because you're not paying them.
It's because you're the dirty government. That's why.
But yeah, so what happens when you get to the end of the year and you find out, oh, I've got a $30,000 tax bill. I've been using my profit up all year because I have to pay for my house, and I've got to pay for my car, and I've got to pay for the kids' school and the dentist and everything else. Well, now you've got a tax bill that you got to pay. So just keep in mind that a good rule of thumb from that perspective is any income that your business gets, you need to assume that about 30% of it is going to taxes. So if you get $100,000, $30,000 is going to taxes in some form or fashion.
We started a war based off of like 2%.
Oh my goodness, yeah, I looked that up and I could not believe how crazy that was. Like it was like, yeah, oh, you're going to charge us 2% on tea? No. We're going to kill everybody now. We are going to war. Nuts. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, that George Washington movie came out recently, and I want to see that.
How was that?
I haven't seen it.
Seen it?
I have not, but I do want to, which I've actually been very surprised at some of the quality of these movies coming out from Angel Studios. I don't know if you've seen any of some of the newer ones.
No.
We went and saw The Sound of Freedom, I think. I think that's what it's called. Yes.
I've seen several trailers and I'm like, they're getting some like big people to do.
I mean, Jim Caviezel was in this one, and it was 2023. It was actually a tough watch. It's about child trafficking.
Oh,
and, yeah. And so it's one of those you watch it for the understanding. It's not good to watch because it's a horrible, insane thing that's part of our world, but the story is incredibly well told. So that came out, and then there was a handful of other ones that has come out. I was going to look up. No.
You know what I see here that I hope isn't true, but it's almost like I wonder if the Angel Studios is becoming like the conservative / Christian like Lifetime.
That's what it seems to
Hallmark
be. Well,
movies.
But the thing that's crazy to me is their the budget for these movies is so small. So The Sound of Freedom is their highest grossing movie that they've ever made. That was in 2023. They made $251 million gross. The budget for that movie, $14 million. Wow. Yeah. Solo Mio was another one that just came out this year. It was actually a Kevin James film.
Interesting.
$4 million budget. they made almost $27 million on it. And so it's like, okay, like, yeah, you're not blowing away the box office with these numbers, but your budget is so conservatively low that you're actually doing very, very well.
Right.
I mean, Sound of Freedom is a huge return on investment.
Here we go. This one will interest you, Clint. +1 at an Amish wedding.
plus one at an Amish wedding? Wow.
Sorry, some of these just seem pretty cringy.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
The King of Kings. That one did very well. That one had $80 million, $83 million box office, I think.
Nice.
Some
of these,
78.
Are definitely not theirs, though. Like they've licensed they've gotten the license to stream some of them.
Oh,
definitely.
yes. I'm looking specifically at ones that were produced or made by Angel Studios.
Angel Studios.
Yes.
Gotcha. Homestead, that one's made by Angel Studios, right?
Yes.
That has...
There is
Neil
one.
McDonough.
So we actually subscribed to the Angel Studios platform just to kind of see what kind of stuff they on there. They do have a pretty entertaining children's catalog of like, Christian, cartoons and stuff like that.
Okay.
But they made a version of Moses that is like The Office. And it's actually really funny. So like they're doing like the mockumentary style with, they're interviewing Moses and they're interviewing Aaron and they interview Miriam and this random guy, which is what I thought was the funniest part of the whole show. This random guy is, he's a Gentile that just kind of gets into the camp, or maybe he's Egyptian. I can't remember whatever it was. He's not of the children of Israel. And there's this one guy from like the tribe of Levi that's like the guy who's always paying attention, and he keeps running into this other guy. He's like, "What tribe are you from?" He's like, "Oh, I'm from the tribe of Benjamin." He's like, "Oh yeah, there's my stuff over there," and he's not part of their camp at all. And so there's like I've only watched about 3 or 4 episodes, but it's just really funny from a perspective of him. He's like obviously trying to pull a fast one on this guy, and the guy's starting to connect the dots that this guy does not belong. But he hasn't been able to figure out exactly where he came from. And it's just really funny because there's that comedic undertone of the Office style mockumentary on there. So, but yeah, it's pretty funny. I'll have to look it up. What it's called. Oh yeah, it's called The Promised Land.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty entertaining. And that's one of those things, it's like it's very difficult to do comedy in Bible stories and stuff like that without just getting like you're straight up just insulting God kind of thing. But they seem to do a pretty good job of it. So
it usually goes one of two ways. It's like cringy, like not really funny, or
like okay, you crossed the line there, and I'm concerned about you being smote
anymore. Yeah, exactly.
I'm concerned about me being smote by watching
it. Yeah.
Like South Park,
South Park.
So yeah, anyway, back to what we were talking about. So those are the vast majority of the things. There's going to be a handful of other items. Your profit margins are too thin. That one's typically a pretty easy one to start remedying. And if your profit margins are too thin, just adjusting your pricing. If one of the good rules of thumb that I've ever tried to keep in mind, if you're not losing at least 20% of the bids that you do, your price too low. So, just kind of keep that as a rule of thumb. Payroll.
Say that again.
Okay, so if I send out 100 estimates for new jobs, new clients, whatever you want to call it. If I send out 100 estimates and I get back 100% approval that they want to work or have me do the job or whatever, my price is too low.
Right.
Because that means I am undercutting literally everybody.
Yeah.
And I may be able to do that for a little while, but eventually those razor-thin profit margins are going to catch up to me. So, just kind of keep that in mind.
Like, what if you don't have razor-thin profit margins?
Well, so that's kind of the catch. Because you could be going into a new market. You've created a brand new product, service, whatever. So you're creating a new market for yourself. So from that perspective, everybody has to keep in mind that there's only a finite amount of money that is ever in existence. So that being said, I'm going to use...
The government prints more.
Well, yeah. But that just means that the money that you have is worth less. Because the value's not going up. It's not like they're creating more value. It's just creating more money and spreading the value between fewer tokens.
Yeah.
But I'm going to use, let's use personal computers as an example.
Oh.
So in the 60s, nobody had a computer in their house. They were too expensive. So the market did not exist for that. Huh?
Computers in the 60s were the size of...
Right, exactly. Houses. Right. I understand that there was limitations with the technology, but what I'm saying is because of limits in the current economy at that time, they were not in every household. Well, that market didn't exist. There was not a market to want to have a computer in your household. Well, they started making them more affordable. They started making them more manageable from a size perspective. So once those things start happening and they're actually something that you can get into your home and the average person can make it, that creates a brand new market. So that's what you have to kind of keep in mind with, from a business perspective. There's basically, you have to keep in mind, are you creating a new market or are you taking a piece of an existing market? So, nobody had computers. Well, okay, let's take the Model T Ford, for example. That's a great example of creating a new market, but it's taking over an existing market. Because everybody was getting around by horses and horse-drawn carriages or walking. Okay, well, walking's free, so there's not really a market there for that. But horses and horse-drawn carriages are a market that's competing with cars. So once cars started becoming more readily available, more affordable for people, more manageable from a maintenance perspective, all of those factors, that's when the market piece starts getting eaten up. So people are no longer buying horse and carriage, they're buying car. Because it doesn't take them, 10 years to buy a car. They can work for enough to take out a loan for the value of the car and make payments over the life of the loan. So yeah, those are the big ones. And there's a handful of smaller ones that are, things like payroll timing. You know, what happens if you have a huge payroll? If you pay people once every month and you have a bunch of invoices that don't come in, you could be running into issues from that side as well. And my co-host just wandered off. So, yeah, this is... Oh, he just finished his new print. Let's see what he has for us today, ladies and gentlemen.
I can't tell you much about it because it's part of a gift I'm doing. I guess it probably won't matter by the time I'm done with this. When are you going to post this episode?
It'll probably be posted next week, so you should be okay.
Okay, so yeah, it won't matter by then.
Yeah,
I'm making something for someone's birthday.
Oh, nice.
So it's supposed to be fire, and it goes on this little plug that screws into the top of something else. I think there we go.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that a Charmander tail?
No, it's not. But I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, anyway, that's our main topic for today is just helping people understand a little bit better what it means to have a business that could be profitable but cash poor or having cash flow issues. So yeah, if you have any questions about cash flow or profit and things like that, shoot us a comment, and I'll see if I can get back to you on that. So we were talking about something earlier, and oh yeah, so okay, so I have recently gone on the epic adventure of watching the entire Friends series from start to finish.
Why would you do that to yourself?
So the problem was I had seen a handful of clips on TikTok and YouTube and whatever.
Sure.
And I was like, yeah, they looked funny. Maybe the show is one of those, after you get watching it, it actually is pretty funny kind of thing. You know, I hated The Office whenever I first watched that, and that one grew on me.
But that for good reason, because you probably started watching The Office before you worked a real job.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Like I did, and like
yeah.
It was so... I couldn't stand Michael Scott, and then I had a couple of Michael Scotts as bosses.
Exactly.
I totally get it now.
Oh yeah, 100%. Being able to relate to the comedy makes it so much better. But
absolutely.
And so that was why I thought about giving, because I had started Friends a couple times and just never was able to even make it through the first season. But I started watching it, and I powered through about the first 2 seasons, and I was like, this has got to start getting better, or I'm done. And there was a handful of episodes that it really does have its moments that are incredibly, incredibly hilarious.
Sure.
And there is a series. It was like the end of season 8, I think.
Okay.
Where there was like 5 episodes in a row where I was literally laughing my butt off because of just the series of events that was happening in these 5 episodes. And do what?
No, I'm listening.
Anyway, so yeah, I finished it last night, not realizing that I was watching the very last episode. Because they made
the whole series.
Yep, I finished the whole series. I've been watching it for like 7 months now, so I finally finished it. And I didn't realize I was watching the last episode because most of the seasons have between like 22 and 25 episodes, and so the last season only has 17, I think. It was 17 or 18, something like that. And I'm watching it. I'm like, why are they like they're wrapping up everything? And then I realized that I'm literally watching the series finale.
You were in like season 10, not realizing you were at the end of the whole show.
Exactly. And so I was like, oh, I guess I'm done watching Friends. But
oh man.
But yeah, so I do have to give it a review. I was pretty impressed that I thought it was as funny as it was. there's this episode where Ross goes on this date with this girl, and he ends up back at her house, and he's trying to reinvent himself. You know, he's the stereotypical nerdy. He's a paleontologist.
He's a total beta simp.
Oh, he is literally a douche. Like he is. Yep. He does the stupidest things that you could possibly do through the entire show.
He is a canoe of douche.
Yeah.
Some would call him a douche
but
canoe.
It actually is just hilarious to watch this episode. So he goes back to her house. They're sitting on the couch. I can't remember exactly what causes it, but for some reason her apartment, I think the air conditioner's out. And he is, like I said, he's reinventing himself. He has these black leather pants on.
Oh, goodness.
And he is sweating his balls off. And so she starts she gets a blanket on, and then she wants to lay on him. So he's sweating even more, and he keeps trying to like casually like push her away so she doesn't get any more body heat on him because he's already dying in these stupid pants. So he goes in the bathroom trying to cool himself off.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you know, these are New York apartments. It's basically a closet with a bathroom attached to it. So it's not like there's a lot of distance between the bathroom and where she's sitting on the couch still watching the movie. So he goes in the bathroom, he's trying to cool himself off. He gets the pants down to about his ankles. And he turns the tub on to splash himself off, not realizing that getting his legs and crotch area drenched would make the pants impossible to get back on. And I think he decided to go commando for this date as well. So he's in the bathroom. Which this is the 90s. There's no such thing as cell phones at this point.
Thank goodness for him.
Yeah, but there is a phone in the bathroom next to the toilet. Lucky for him. So he calls Joey. He's like, "Hey, you got to help me. I'm trying to get my pants back on. I got my legs wet and I can't get my pants back on." And of course, Joey is like laughing uncontrollably at this situation.
Yep.
And so he's like, "Oh, here's what you do. Get some is there any like baby powder in there or anything?" Yes, there's a whole big jar of powder in there. So he coats him. I mean, these are like jet black pants, a dark shirt, and he just takes this thing and just all over his hand, and he's just rubbing it everywhere. His pants are covered in this baby powder. Well, it doesn't work. It turns into this paste.
Yep.
So Joey is now laughing uncontrollably at this point. And he's like, "Well, is there any lotion?" So he finds this giant bottle of hand lotion, and he's just rubbing it all over himself. Oh my! And it doesn't help at all. It just congeals and makes this gel paste junk that it makes it. He still can't get his pants on, and I think Joey was on a date or something like that, and so he's trying to get laid himself, and he's like, "Well, I'm sorry, bud, I gotta go." So he just hangs up on him. He's like, Joey, you gotta help me. Of course, he can't call anybody else because you can't call your sister and say, "Hey, my pants are around my ankles and I can't get them back on." And so then Joey goes over there immediately, tells everybody how hilarious this whole thing is. And and the girl that he's on the date with, she knocks on the door and she's like, "Hey, you've been in there for like 45 minutes. Are you okay?" And he's like, he opens the door and walks out, and of course his pants are still around his ankles, and his shirt is covered in baby powder. His pants are covered in baby powder and lotion.
My goodness.
And he's like, I can't get my pants back on. And so, he ends up going home, obviously, but it was just one of those things where, like, every once in a while a show like that will just strike gold.
Yeah.
like comedic slapstick gold with the whole setup and exactly how the whole situation plays out. And you know, like I have never in my life worn leather pants, much less been in a situation where I had leather pants on and could not get them back on. But it's one of those just like I totally feel for the guy being in that kind of a situation where it's just like, yeah, things went south and like there's just no salvaging this. But there was so many people that actually showed up in that show that were like I didn't realize that, you know, they were, a lot of them were guest stars and stuff like that. But Anna Faris was in it. Robin Williams and Billy Crystal were both in it. Brad Pitt's in an episode, which is hilarious because he was married to Jennifer Aniston at that point, and his character hates her. So like he's a jerk to her through the entire episode. That was really funny. Paul Rudd is in like the entire last 2 seasons.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Trying to think of who else was in there.
There was like, my wife used to own the entire 10 seasons on DVD.
Oh yeah,
and she loves the series, and I've not really been a fan. I find Ross to be the character to be. We'll just leave it at annoying. Like, I just don't like having to watch the one, though, that I did enjoy watching in the show, in any of the episodes that I saw, was Matthew Perry's character.
Oh, yes. Yeah, Matthew Perry, he made the show significantly more enjoyable to watch. And I hate so much that he ended up dying.
I know.
He was in a lot of other good movies that I really liked. I thought 17 Again was actually pretty entertaining with him and Zac Efron.
Zac Efron.
Which was kind of funny to watch Zac Efron be like a Matthew Perry type. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Ben Stiller was in it. Alec Baldwin dates Phoebe for a while.
Alec Baldwin.
Yeah. Charlie Sheen is in it.
Of course, Charlie Sheen's in it.
Yeah. Jon Favreau. Tom Selleck, obviously.
Obviously, Tom Selleck.
Yeah.
What was Tom Selleck's role in this movie?
He was actually the older boyfriend of Monica for like 2.5 seasons.
Really?
Yes. So it's hilarious because he is like really good buddies with Monica and Ross's parents.
Oh, and
which it's so depressing. So he is, I think he's in his like mid 40s.
Yeah,
maybe late 40s. In this, because you know, because Monica is like 23, I think, when the show starts, and so yeah, that's what's depressing about it because he starts in season 2.
That's
okay. So the show starts, and they're all between 25 and 26 years old. So season 2, she's 26. So I think he was like 22 years older. So yeah, he was like 47 or 48 when they were dating. So it's like, yeah, that's just depressing.
It's depressing. Oh my goodness.
But Reese Witherspoon was in it. George Clooney, Julia Roberts.
I mean, it was like one of the most popular shows at the time.
Oh, it was.
So
yeah.
Why not? Why not have, you know, a bunch of big names come and show up on it?
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and Danny DeVito, which hilariously enough, he plays a male stripper.
Because of course he does.
Of course he does. Yeah.
Because of course he does.
Yeah. But but there was a lot of people that I actually did not know. Dakota Fanning. She was in the last season. She's she lives in the house that Monica and Chandler are trying to buy.
Oh yeah.
And she bonds with Joey because Joey doesn't want them to move into their house, and the little girl doesn't want her parents to sell the house to Monica and Chandler. So
right.
Denise Richards is in it.
Oh gosh, Denise Richards.
Jean-Claude Van Damme is actually, he plays himself.
Of course he would.
But yeah, so it was really interesting to see all of these different people show up throughout the show that I feel like was probably where they may have gotten their start.
Mm-hmm. Or they were up and coming enough that that they could get in there.
Yes.
I guess.
Have you ever seen Community?
Yeah, all 6 seasons.
Okay,
still waiting for the movie.
So you know the dean.
Yes.
I think it's the dean. It's the fake dean.
Fake dean.
The doppeldeaner.
The doppeldeaner.
You remember that when they kidnapped the real dean and they put him and they put a fake one in who looks a lot like him?
I don't remember that episode.
Oh man, it was actually like a series thing. It was like the end of season 3 and most of season 4. They have the real dean like kidnapped and hidden and stuff like that.
Huh. Yeah, I don't remember that. I mean, I vaguely remember that, but like, man, when did I watch that show? It was a pretty long time ago.
Okay, sorry, no, it actually is the real dean. His name is Jim Rash. He is in the season. He is in Friends, and I think that was one of his earlier breaks.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's hard to tell because it's such an old, portrayal of him, and he has some hair, so he looks a little bit different than the portrayal that he does in Community. But yeah, so I was like, oh man, look who it is.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's very interesting too, because like to go back and like, I always find that that is actually a really interesting thing when you go back and watch an older movie or TV show.
Yeah.
For instance, and you see someone that you know now in a different role, that is always very interesting because you're like, oh,
yeah, exactly.
I didn't know they were in this.
Yep,
that's interesting.
Yeah,
this is why sometimes I find it interesting to like look at some actors like filmographies, etc.
Oh yes, where you see all the stuff that they were in before.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you go, whoa, okay, interesting.
Yeah. So anyway, Friends was actually a pretty pleasant surprise. It was better than I expected it to be. From an overall rating, I would say that it took me a lot longer than I wanted it to for me to get into the characters and stuff like that. I would probably give it around a 6.5 to a 7. From a personal rating perspective, it was entertaining, and there was definitely about 10 episodes that I remember laughing hysterically at. But yeah, it was one of those where it was. I don't think it mattered specifically who was in the situation. It was just the situation itself that was largely funny. So it could have been funny with any other person in it, kind of thing. But yeah, so
I don't know. I think some things were only funny because of Matthew Perry.
Oh yes, no, definitively, yeah. Matthew Perry, I feel it's actually interesting. So I was trying to be more objective from that perspective. I actually was very surprised at how funny Courtney Cox was. Like, her character is actually very, very funny as a counterpart to Matthew Perry's character. Like when they hooked up and started their whole relationship, that actually fleshed out a lot of humor for her because she was kind of the obsessive competitive one.
Yeah.
And so she was really funny. And then the Phoebe character, like, she was really annoying to me for most of the show, except for like the last 2 seasons where she would just like freak out about stuff and just start yelling. And it was just like the way she did it was just freaking hilarious. You know, they're trying to chase Rachel down at the airport, and it's Ross and Phoebe. And spoiler alert for people who haven't watched this whole show yet. So they get to the door and they don't have a ticket because she just walked through the door to get on the plane. And the guy's like, yeah, you can't go by. And I mean, Rachel's literally within earshot. And so they're like, just let me go. She's right there. Just let me go. And Phoebe just starts like, Rachel, just starts screaming at the top of her lungs. And of course, Rachel comes around and turns right back around because she's literally just right there. So it was just like funny from that perspective because they kind of leaned into that crazy part of her personality a little bit. But yeah, anyway, it was entertaining. It was a worthwhile watch. I didn't feel like it went on a little bit too long, like some of these sitcoms do.
I mean, 10 years, man.
Well, I think they wrapped it up well. It wasn't like they were just like, okay, well, we have nothing really left we can do with these characters. We're done. Because, like, to me, I would say that season 7 through 9 were the funniest and best episodes. So it felt like that they had done such a great job of building the relationships with the characters that was where it started getting entertaining and actually very funny to watch. Whereas like Big Bang Theory, I liked Big Bang Theory. I thought that was a funny show, but like I think that one was 13 seasons.
Yikes. I got to admit, I'm just not into sitcoms.
12.
Like,
yeah. And
I'm not
so
really into sitcoms at all.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't love sitcoms. I have to be in kind of a mood for them. But there was 12 seasons of Big Bang Theory, and I felt like after season 8, it was just like, okay, what are we doing here? You know?
Yeah.
It's almost like you're just trying to stretch something into something it's not. Which that kind of brings me to the next point that I was going to make. So, have you watched, I know you've read some of the Game of Thrones novels. Did you watch the show at all?
So I have read, as far as I know, every book that has been published.
Okay, because there's 5 currently, and I think there's supposed to be 7. Well, 7 in the main Game of Thrones story.
Right. So I actually I own all of them too.
Yeah, I think I actually own all of them as well.
It's funny because like I was buying those books before I made more of a switch to going digital.
Oh, okay.
That's how long it has been since he has written a frickin' book.
Was it 2011, I think, was the last book came out?
May have been around that. No, it was after that because I know for a fact it was after 2011.
Nope, it was 2011. A Dance with Dragons was the last one that came out, and it was July 12, 2011.
Okay, well, then I must have gotten into that one late because I remember buying it in an airport the year after I got married, which was 2014, and I was on my way back home from like a cousin's wedding, and I missed, like, my wife and I were living in California, and I went to go be at my cousin's wedding, which was pretty close to. I was actually gone on our 1-year anniversary because of it, which my mother-in-law freaked out about. But like, we've been married over a decade now later, and we never had another bite of that cake. You know, that was stuck in the freezer the year later, which is nasty if you ask me. Whatever. Anyway, so I read it sometime around circa 2014.
Well, I should add the caveat. So there's the 5 main series books that are all part of the Game of Thrones. That's like Game of Thrones, Clash of Kings, Storm of Swords, Feast for Crows, and Dance with Dragons. Mm-hmm. And then there's 3 companion novels.
For goodness sake.
The World of Ice and Fire. That was 2014. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, which is about Duncan the Tall.
I know. Yeah.
That one's 2015. And then Fire and Blood was 2018.
Yeah, but none of these finish or advance the main story.
No, they don't. They're just subtext for stuff that's already been addressed, at least in some capacity, in the main series.
So, okay, here's my thing.
But like I said, I mean, that's still, what, 8 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, 8 years ago for Fire and Blood, which was the last one that was written. And it's been 15 years since A Dance with Dragons. That's insane.
Yeah, no, it is insane. I watched the TV show up to the point where there was no more written canon for the story.
Okay, so that would have been the end of season 6, I think.
Something like that. Because I knew, because I had already seen this happen before, because the greatest anime of all time, Full Metal Alchemist, went through a similar problem. So in the early 2000s, they did the original run of the series based on the manga, and at a certain point,
so season 5 actually. Okay,
I think it was the end of the Red Wedding. I don't remember. Anyway, so the anime production of Full Metal Alchemist.
Oh, okay.
The original one, right?
Yeah.
The one that released in the early 2000s. No,
yes.
The one
not Brotherhood, but the original.
No, the original. Like
that's not nearly as good.
It isn't nearly as good because they ran out of material, and
it's got a bunch of filler.
Right. It's got not only that, it's not the actual ending to the story that the author had intended. And I think that she had given them kind of an idea where she was headed. But like now that, after, I don't remember when it was they started doing Brotherhood.
I think it was like 2009.
Yeah, it was like 5 or 6 years later that they did Brotherhood. And Brotherhood happened right around they started Brotherhood right around the time that she finished the series, the manga series. And so Brotherhood just basically, they followed the books. And, not to like 100% exactly.
But close enough.
But like, I mean, why wouldn't you? Like,
when your source material is that incredible,
yeah, exactly. So they basically brought the mangas to animation.
Yep.
And Brotherhood is the best, I think, series ever made. And so I knew, because this was pretty close to the same time that Game of Thrones was coming out.
Yes, I think Game of Thrones season 1 was 2010 or 2011.
Right. And so because I knew with my experience of watching the first Full Metal Alchemist series and the second one after the entire content had been released, I knew Game of Thrones was going to falter and fail and go who knows where after they caught up with the books, and knowing that George R.R. Martin is going to literally die before he finishes the series.
Yeah.
I didn't want to watch the TV show anymore.
I don't blame you. Because like I think, and that's the thing that's so unfortunate about it. And I hate what HBO has done with this series, because we've been watching The House of the Dragon as well. Mm-hmm. And I'll be the first to admit, I watched every episode of Game of Thrones. I've seen every episode of House of the Dragon. I watched A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is excellent. Excellently, very well done. They didn't do the bull crap that they're doing with the House of the Dragon. The problem that I have with House of the Dragon is the problem that I had with the end, like the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones. They are rushing through things that you shouldn't rush through,
Mm-hmm.
and they're ignoring things that they should not ignore. It's like, okay, everybody has been waiting this entire season for this incredible battle scene. They just brush over it and don't even show it. Or they open up a season with this crazy battle, and then they get like, okay, we have a big opener, and then you've got this lull.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to Anna about this the other day. The problem that I have with what they're doing with film, it makes for horrible storytelling. Because there's aspects of storytelling that's the reason that storytelling is well done, is by following a formula.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it entirely by the formula, but you do have to have the pieces. There's the inciting incident, and there's the plot as it develops, and then there's the character development that happens, and all of this has to happen. It's for lack of a better term, it's like a symphony being written. If it's not in the right order, it sounds like complete crap. And that's what's happening with this House of the Dragon series, and I think a lot of people are getting the same mindset, is they're trying to stretch out a story into 5 or 6 seasons.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're taking stuff that's such an insignificant aspect of the book and just turning it into a full episode. It's just like, why in the world would we care about that?
Yep.
Well,
and here's the thing that, like, kind of going back to calling back to what we were talking about earlier with the Lord of the Rings, and the job that they did with the movies and the books,
yes, yeah,
the adaptation there, like, it was so well done that it spawned multiple avenues of new revenue.
Oh yeah,
because, like, I'll be honest, like, I'm burned on the whole Song of Ice and Fire series.
Oh yeah,
I don't know that I'll read another book.
Yeah,
like, I just don't care anymore.
Yeah,
it soured for me.
Mm-hmm.
But the Lord of the Rings
at this
series,
point, it's been 15 years. I'm sure you've seen some level of spoilers for stuff that's happened in the TV series, which I think that I would be willing to bet that anything past about season 7 is just the two dipshit showrunners were like, yeah, we're gonna run with this crap, and we're gonna say whatever we feel like because we think we're a bigger deal than we actually are, and we're just gonna mail it in on these last 2 seasons. And everybody that reviews these is like, yeah, this show had the most incredible writing, the most incredible dialogue of any show that I've ever seen up until about season 6. And then season 6, it's just like, okay, season 6 is got some good stuff still. We're past the point of where the books are, but there's still a little bit of stuff that, like, you could reason out from where they were at. It's likely that George was going this way with the book. Okay, sure, great. And then it gets to season 7. It's just like, okay, things are starting to taper off. And then season 8 is just like, what did I just watch?
Yeah, they drove it off a cliff.
Yeah.
They drove it off a cliff.
And set it on fire and took a dump on the ashes. I mean, it's just, yeah. And I hate that because it really was. I mean, you said yourself you watched up to where the books were, which... whether you actually saw that, because the problem is I know I've read the first book. I've been trying to read through the series, and reading the first book, I already know that there's some significant differences. I know that the first season was the one that stayed the closest to the original source material, but after season 1, there's so many things that start happening on the political side, and I mean, even with the kids, like all the Stark kids are wargs. And they never even talk about that in the show, other than Bran.
You're right. Other than Bran, it's like, no, Jon could do some of that with Ghost.
Yep.
And so could Arya. Arya felt the pull of what was her name?
Nymeria.
Lady. Yeah, Nymeria.
Yep.
She's
and even Robb.
A whole bunch.
Robb could do it a little bit.
Even Robb. Yep. So Yeah, and see that's the thing. Like, I have the same opinion of what they did with the Hobbit movie because I don't think that should have ever been 3 movies.
Exactly.
2 at best.
Yeah.
They drag things out to try and generate more revenue from the property, and they dilute and they corrupt the story that people were actually interested in seeing in the first place. And they actually end up driving people away from the property instead of, like they did more so in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, staying more faithful to the source material.
Exactly.
And thus, in honoring kind of like, what was going on with it, whatever, and then making such a great product that everybody still talks about it. You can still, I mean, they're selling the DVDs, the Blu-rays, whatever. They still sell that crap.
Oh yeah,
they sell like merch for it is always being sold. There's other things like I remember after they came out, they did a series of video games called The Battle for Middle Earth, where you basically got to play through an RTS style game of the the story, like the book storyline that followed a lot of the movie, and they had some of the same voices were voicing some of the characters, and like all the character designs was from like that was super freaking cool.
Well, there was all kinds of stuff. I mean, there was an MMO that came out that was built in the world of Lord of the Rings.
Right. But
I know there was at least 10 different video game adaptations that got released.
You don't see that for Game of Thrones.
Unfortunately, you don't. It's and that's the thing that's so frustrating. It's like I've started noticing now. It's like, okay, after Game of House of the Dragon ends, you get the credits and then you get the preview for the next episode, which is, hey, all that stuff we were building up to this episode? Well, there's going to be a little bit more of build up in the next episode. And then after that, you get an ad for their mobile game. And I'm like, okay, look, like, nobody cares about your stupid mobile game. Dragon Masters or whatever the stupid thing is called. And that's the thing that's so frustrating about it. It's like, okay, what happened to the time in the world where I'm going to make a good quality product that makes you want to go buy that product? I was thinking about this the other day because, like, another, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I've always loved the original Star Wars trilogy and even the prequel trilogy. I loved those. Another great film series, in my opinion, is the Harry Potter movies. They were
a really good job with those too.
Incredibly well done with the Harry Potter series. But what left a bad taste in my mouth?
All those books too.
Oh yeah, I have not read those. I've heard they're good, but I haven't read those yet. But what left a bad taste in my mouth was when it got to the Deathly Hallows, they split it into 2 parts. When you take a film and you break it up into 2 parts like that, what happens is you have all of the build up to a climax, but no climax. And so the unfortunate part there, I was thinking about this the other day. I legitimately believe that if they released part 1 on one weekend and then part 2, or even at the same time, I would literally go sit in the theaters for 6 hours and line them up back to back and watch part 1 and then go watch part 2. If you just can't do it in one film, that's fine. If you're trying to tell that big of a story and you need more time to do it, I'm all about you having more time. But release them at the same time. Don't give me part 1 and then give me part 2 a year later.
It wasn't a year later. Part 1 was in November of 2010, and Part 2 was in July of 2011.
Well, okay, Harry Potter was, but a lot of these ones that are doing the 2-part thing, they're separating them by an enormous amount of time.
Sure.
And
I
so
will say, though, when you're trying to adapt a book that is 600 pages, let's see which ones.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Well, the Half-Blood Prince was also 600 pages.
Yep.
I mean, they were big books.
Yep.
See, I think the Order of the Phoenix could have been 2 movies because it was 766.
Yep.
Pages. Goblet of Fire was 636. Azkaban 317. 251 Chamber of Secrets. 223 was the Philosopher's Stone.
Okay. So they definitely grew in length significantly.
Yeah.
But there was a lot more to cover because of the story developing.
Right, yeah. In addition of a lot more characters
and
whatnot. So, I mean, yeah, I think, I actually take it back. I haven't seen all of the movies. I never watched the Deathly Hallows, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Those are actually really good.
I maybe I'll have to go.
But if you can watch them back to back, it's great because you don't have that lull of, I completely forgot about everything I watched 6 months ago.
Right.
That's the frustrating part from a theatrical release.
Sure, yeah.
Well,
I mean, but you could also say that same thing with the Lord of the Rings movies. Because they were all filmed at the same time, but they were released,
But the thing is from a storytelling aspect, the Fellowship of the Ring follows a book. And the book tells a story following the rules of storytelling. So there is a full arc, a full climax, a full ending of events that happens in the Fellowship of the Rings. It's the same thing with the Two Towers. I don't have a problem with them being spaced out if I'm getting a complete story-driven narrative. But when you start breaking up pieces of the narrative, it's like, okay, this whole movie is just character development. Okay, that's great. I know you need character development, but you can't have only character development or it's a boring movie. And you can't have only climax or it's just like, oh, what just happened to me?
It was interesting. I'm looking at the Wikipedia page for the film series.
Okay.
And the Deathly Hallows Part 1 is the lowest rated film in the series.
See what I'm saying? Yeah. It's all plot and narrative devices, but there's no climax.
It got a 77% on Rotten Tomatoes, whereas the Part 2 got 96%.
Yeah. And that being said, I realize that Part 1 is a necessary aspect of the story, but that's what I'm saying is the problem is that necessary aspect of the story of the Deathly Hallows is separated from what it needed to be connected to.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. So that all brings us full circle back to what I was actually intending to talk about for our Going Deep segment, which is failing upwards.
Oh, good Lord.
So, and that the reason I came up with this idea about failing upwards is I thought it was fascinating to watch, specifically thinking about these sitcoms that I've watched recently, because I watched Big Bang Theory last year, and I've just finished Friends this year and things like that. And it's hilarious to me, all of the characters in these shows, especially Friends, have failed upwards on an enormously high trajectory for their careers. Ross has a temper like nobody's business.
Okay.
And he gets fired, I think, 3 times during his stint in the show from his paleontology job at the university. And then at the end of the show, he gets tenure. And I'm just like, wait, what? Like, okay, how does that happen? Joey is a terrible, terrible actor.
Yeah.
And he gets kicked off of the Days of Our Lives show that he's on because he's talking smack about how he's the only good writer and he comes up with good ad libs on the spot, and the writers don't help him out at all because he can never remember his lines. And he ends up being like the main showrunner of the show, like towards the end of the show, and he's getting all these big acting gigs and stuff like that. And I'm just like, he was terrible through this whole show,
Right.
He never improved. It wasn't like there was a growth arc. It was just he was terrible, and he just was terrible long enough that he got a big role,
Hey, he was supposed to be though, right? Like wasn't that the joke that he was
terrible, or
that he was a bad actor?
I mean,
that was part of the joke.
Well, but what I'm saying is it seemed like everybody in the show failed upwards.
Okay.
Rachel, she has no degree, no training in any capacity. I think she stumbles across a job at somewhere like Ralph Lauren and gets promoted up to like one of their VPs of buying or something like that. And it's because she likes shopping. And I'm not saying that you have to have like a full-blown college degree to be able to be successful in any capacity, but it's just like, okay, what's going on here? They're literally just like, oh, Monica just happens to date a guy who has a restaurant and he wants to get laid, so he gives her this restaurant.
Right.
And all of her employees can't stand her because she's so anal. And so I'm like, okay, where's the point of like they did something to deserve this promotion or this growth in their career or whatever. And so, but it was funny because Chandler is the only one that he infuriated me the most because he was in it's like the earliest versions of data analytics.
Yeah.
He has a degree in it, I believe. He's really good with numbers and computers and stuff like that. So he gets promoted up through this company that he's in, and it makes sense for him to start getting the growth trajectory that he gets because he's been there forever. He makes good money when he starts the show. He keeps making good money as he grows through the company, and then towards like season 7 or something like that, maybe 8, he just was like, "Yeah, I quit. I'm not working for you anymore." And then he gets a job. He's like, "Yeah, I want to do a different career." And so he goes into marketing that he's never done before, and somehow just gets promoted to like one of their heads or whatever like that. And I'm just like, okay, what is going on here? Like, I mean, I get making a career change and getting your foot in the door, but there's no way you're going to be like, yeah, I worked in this for 10 years and I'm going into a senior executive of marketing when I worked in data analytics for the last decade. So yeah, anyway, all that to come back to failing upwards. Just because things go south for you in one situation doesn't mean that you can't be successful in another situation. And I think there is a old adage, and it's probably some kind of Bible variation or something like that. But it's essentially part of growing as a person. And becoming successful is being able to fail. If you get knocked off the horse, you get back up and you try again. And you do that over and over and over again. And you're going to learn, you're going to grow, you're going to get better skills, you're going to, expand your horizons and all of that stuff. And it's going to turn into opportunity for you. But if you get knocked down and just stay on the ground and let the horse kick you to death while you're laying there, well, yeah, you're not going to go anywhere, So, yeah, I just it just was kind of an interesting allegory because obviously I finished watching Friends and watched them fail upwards, no matter how bad they did terrible at their job or whatever, that they somehow ended up being incredibly successful. So stick at it. Keep
Don't
at
give
it.
Up.
Don't give up. You know, the more you stick to it, the more a chance that you're going to have of being successful, apparently. if Friends is any kind of mirror of real life in any capacity. Although I wouldn't put too much in that thought process because, let's be honest, I don't know how many paleontologists are going to be able to land somebody like Jennifer Aniston.
Probably not a lot.
Yeah.
I imagine. Well, yeah. Yeah, but in Friends, she's kind of a ditzy, kind of do nothing anyway, so it's not like...
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, that's our going deep segment for today.
Woo-doo.
So yeah, that's all we got. I'm a little bit fried because we're dealing with getting everything ready for school next week. So,
oh my gosh,
I know everybody's dealing with their back to school specials and school supplies and teachers meetings and everything else.
Yeah.
So, best of luck to everybody next week that's starting. Are you starting? Your kids starting school next week?
They do. They start school on Tuesday.
Oh, okay. What is this Tuesday crap?
I don't know.
Like,
I'm with you though. It is crap.
Ours are starting on Tuesday also. Which, I mean, Evie's in pre-K, so she's only going to school or pre-K on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But they're like, yeah, we had the teachers orientation meeting, whatever, where we got to meet Lincoln's kindergarten teacher, and they're like, yeah, we'll see you on Tuesday. And I was like, are you 4 days a week? Like, what's this crap about? No, we're just going to skip Mondays.
Yeah, no Mondays.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I don't get it either. But I'll ask my wife what the heck is up with that because she's the vice principal of my kid's school.
Yeah. So. What's going on here?
What the
Yeah.
Woman?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Well,
man.
That is our episode for the week.
Yeah.
And we appreciate everybody for stopping by. And
one of you who watched this episode.
Yeah, all one of us. I'm going to see if I can set up a live stream to where we can actually have people interacting with us. Maybe that's something that we'll hold off until season 2. That starts officially in November.
That'd be a great thing to add into season 2.
Season 2 is going to be when our live episodes go.
Yeah, we can do live streaming where we sit there and stare at the empty chat, waiting for someone to talk.
Yeah, for the viewer to chat with us,
so we can react or answer questions. That'll be really exciting.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start getting those pieces in place, but we have gotten all of our podcasts uploaded onto Spotify. So if you don't like looking at our ugly mugs, then go check out our Spotify. I am also working on getting them uploaded on Apple podcasts and Google podcasts and all those other whatever platforms. Just remember, today is a brand new day, so go out there and
make it a great one. If I hold his face much longer, it's gonna hurt.